So let's see if technology finally want to play with us, because when I just hit start streaming a second ago, OBS just closed down on us. So while everybody is holding on and waiting for us to get around to everything, I'm just checking on Facebook to make sure technology finally likes me today. Yay, that's what I get for going back live on Facebook. And yes, Facebook live stream is happening. We are moving and people actually can see us. It's been a struggle getting here. Yay. So everybody, as I already mentioned in the group and in a couple of posts, Facebook Lives are happening again here at Ask Yvi, and let me know where you guys are watching from, and if you're watching the replay, go comment #replay and tell me where you're from too. What these Facebook Lives are all going to be about is efficiency, but I want to look at efficiency out of a little different point of view, which is why I have Brandon here, who I ran into social media marketing world 2019, and it's kind of like Stephanie Lowe's fault. We both know each other because she's like, I've been live streaming all day. You two go do that. And we just kind of jumped right into a live stream in my group. So some of my people have already met you. Brennan Bergmeyer. I always want to say Brinkmeyer. By the way, cool German last name. Already love you just for that. He is a seasoned marketing strategist and up-and-coming writer. So I want to hear more about that in just a second too. Author, speaker, and business coach who works with entrepreneurs and small business owners to help them build brands that matter and businesses that thrive. We'll talk about your history in just a little bit because I have a little bit more information about him. But just introduce yourself. Tell people a little bit more than just the bio. Who are you and why should they care about you?
Yeah, happy to talk about who I am. I am Brandon Berkmeyer. I'm excited to be here today, first off, so thank you for having me. It was kind of a stroke of fate that brought us together, and I somehow got sucked into your community, so I just appreciate you bringing me on today, so thank you.
Hi, I'm always happy to meet new people. That's how we get nerdy.
Yeah, and I love your content, so it's exciting that this came together, and I love working with entrepreneurs too, so I think we have that in common. The quick story is, since college, which was 17 years now ago, I've worked at ad agencies in marketing for Fortune 100 companies like Walmart, Apple, Jack in the Box, Coca-Cola, you name it, and did their marketing strategy for them from an ad agency. So building these big, multi-million dollar campaigns. And a year ago, I left that line of work to work one-on-one with businesses and coach them on their marketing. So that's what I'm doing today. And with that, I put out a lot of content now. I write for a blog. I have a podcast called Brands on Brands on Brands, which is relaunching May 5th, which I'll talk about. I'm excited about that. I do live videos. I run communities. So yeah, just kind of doing a lot of things right now.
So you're pretty much a jack of all trades, kind of like me.
There you go.
Not that we know anything about that. So what moved you to go from all those big brands, all of the fanciness that a lot of us are actually striving for, to go to your own?
Well, I won't lie to you about it. I was hesitant to jumping into being on my own. I had a nice cushy corporate job for 17 years, and I didn't leave it because I was just so excited to work one-on-one and be an entrepreneur. The truth is, I was worried that I wasn't going to be relevant, that I worked so much for other companies that I didn't have my own personal brand, and that I could be replaced and not have a job in 5 years. And so that's the truth of it. I was running scared a little bit and said, I'm just going to stop and commit to myself that I'm not going to take another corporate job until I figure myself out in terms of how I develop my perspective, my voice, and what I want to give to the marketing community. It's still a passion of mine. It's all I want to do, but I want to do it in a way where I am relevant as an individual, as opposed to a tool in a corporate model, if you will.
And that's a piece of, quote, bulletproofing yourself. I'm like, for me, everything is about bulletproof. And when I work with clients, yes, we want to be able to step away and things just work by themselves. But that doesn't mean we want to be replaceable. And if we haven't figured out who we are, what we do, our own brand, which we're going to get to in just a second, we are replaceable. We are just a tool. So there's thousands of other people out there that can do the same thing we can do. I'm like, let's not fool ourselves. But the way we do it, that's the unique perspective. We are thinking different, we are voicing ourselves different, we are different. That's what sets us apart. I'm like, look at me, former web designer. Everybody can build a website nowadays. But how good and how well and how converting and the voicing with it and the communication with the client, that's what sets us apart. So I applaud you to making that step. It's not easy. It's not frightening. But it also helps us. So
it does, and I'll tell you. Thank you. I'll tell you a little story. I mean, part of this was the finding my voice and finding what my perspective is. I started speaking. I spoke to 3 colleges. They're business students or entrepreneurs, and I had to figure out what I want to tell them, what I want to give them that can help them. And half of it I talked about the importance of branding and kind of the history of it, because that's what I'm passionate about, and I think that they can figure out why it's important. It helps, especially if they're getting into marketing. But the second part, which I thought was most important, was I wanted to impress the relevance of building a personal brand, and I think that's a buzzword, and I also think find your voice is, or your truth or your purpose is a buzzword. But really, I said, the earlier you can start to have a perspective, and start writing, start recording, doing whatever you can do to get your voice out there and figure out how you think about things and how you form ideas and how you form opinions. The sooner you could do that, the better, because the more you do it, the more it becomes practiced, and the better you are at not just towing the line, but actually being an individual. And it's something that was so relevant for me this past year. And if I could get them to do it too, they'd be 20 years ahead of me right off the bat. So that's the best thing I could tell them. And it's been true to me and my story.
Which already leads into the first question we talked about, is why branding is so important. And I don't think there is a difference between branding yourself for being self-employed or branding yourself in a corporate world. It's what sets us apart nowadays. So even if you are employed, don't put aside of building you as a brand, because it comes down to the voice, to what you focus on, what you're passionate about, your uniqueness. That's what the brand is about, right?
It is. I mean, you're especially if you're, because I try to work with businesses, and a lot of businesses happen to be, a 1-person shop or a 3-person shop or a service business, and they tend, like, you are the face of the business. Your customers are working with you, and your reputation is your brand. Your handshake, your smile, the way you do business, how you serve people, that experience that customers have is your brand. I mean, really all a brand is, when you get down to the core of it, is your reputation, and then the perceptions that are built based on the work that you do and the experiences that customers have about you.
And totally throwing you under the bus here, because we actually had a couple questions set up, but I also like to flow with where things are going.
Sure.
If you guys have followed me, I really, really, really care about perception, because just because I say red doesn't mean you think about the same color that I think about. And the same thing happens with communication, with blogs, with explaining things, with trying to convey who you are. So it doesn't just matter what you think you are, it matters what other people perceive you to be.
Well, it's like, I like to tell people, think of it as a human being, right? Think about yourself, because a brand works the same way. When you're out there meeting people, they're going to have a first impression of you, just like they would your business. You shake hands, you smile, you make a first good impression. They don't know you yet, but they now have a feeling for who you are. That's like the first image you get in your business too, like what they see, and all that. But and then whatever you intend is the second piece. The piece, like, who you are on the inside, your values, what you're all about. The business is the same thing. They know what their quality points are. They know what's important to them. And the customer doesn't know that yet, but that's the other part of the equation. And that perception, what you can generate that they see and experience in between what you were intending and what comes across to them, is that in-between point. That's the brand. So it is important that you know that what they take in, because if what you're putting out doesn't match what they're taking in, you've got to figure out a new way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I could spend hours on that piece of things. I won't go down that rabbit hole today. If you guys are watching live, short call, we had a couple tech issues. Go let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. I always find it really interesting where people are watching from. So Brandon, talking about branding, before we dive into the big question on how that can save us time and money, what are some of the challenges you see regularly when working with clients when it comes to branding?
Honestly, the first one is that it's just not on their to-do list. It tends to be the thing that they know that they have to, if they had to admit it, they know they have to do it, but they don't have time. You guys are busy doing everything else, which is why you watch shows like this. You're trying to save time or money, and it doesn't end up on your list. And every entrepreneur could admit they have a million things to do. So priorities are hard, and marketing it has to be a mindset. It has to be something that you commit to doing every day, all the time, and that it's a line item on your business. And so the first thing is most people don't have the time, or they don't commit the time and have that mindset that this is this is something they need to commit to, but also the mindset that it's ongoing. I had a lot of people say, I've tried it and it didn't work for me. And then they gave up, or they just paused and put that time elsewhere. That's a big kind of thing that you have to switch in your head. It's a journey. You're gonna have to figure out your best practices along the way, and that progress you make every day is what's gonna make your business successful. It takes time to build a plan that works for you, because there is benchmarks, but every business kind of paces differently in figuring out their customers. And so that mindset that this is a growth, and this is it's something you have to grow, and that it's going to be a bit of a struggle, and you're competing with yourself essentially. That mindset is kind of the first thing that people have to get across.
And one thing, I'm the perfect example for this. I'm like, branding and the visual wasn't my first thing. I knew I needed it. It's kind of like the dentist. You know you have to go, but you don't want to. And my piece was the same, because I didn't feel at home with my brand. Now, literally just happened over the last month, not 2 months by now. We got the colors down, we got the voice down, we got the fonts down, we got the visual down, and people are like, oh yeah, that's totally you. Now, the thing that I want to share with you guys, I didn't start out like that. It took me 3 years, because it also combined my personal growth with it. Of feeling comfortable and going on the camera and cursing publicly, not just on coaching calls, and just being me and being okay with that. And with that personal growth, my brand grew. In the past, I had a mandala in my logo with peach and teal. Unlike even Brandon, that knows me like about that much and a couple hours at Social Media Marketing World, knows that peach and teal and a mandala is not me. So I want you to feel uncomfortable. Just do something. It is more important that you do something and you test it, because then you know if it works or doesn't, and then adjust, rather than just, oh yeah, no, maybe, I don't know. Put the work in, live it, do it.
Absolutely. And I'll
rant over.
It's a good rant. Well, and I'll tell you, I think the visual piece is what people focus on when they think of the word branding. And it's an important piece as you start to establish yourself, but it also gets people tripped up, right? Let me tell you a story that when I got started and I was like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. Well, I'm a branding person. I have to have that right, or people won't take me seriously, right? And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I spent months like working on a website and a look and a positioning and all that stuff. Like, what am I going to tell people? And didn't do actual business, the business work, which you guys would appreciate. And at the end of it, I built this beautiful website. I spent hundreds of dollars on a logo. And at the end of it, I like, okay, now what? And I didn't have any work done. And I was like, man, it's what I tell everyone else. I was like, the first thing you should do is talk to your customers. It's like if you spend all that time getting dressed and putting your makeup on, you show up at the party and you don't talk to anybody. Like what you should do is go talk to people first, get to know people, just meet them, be real. And when you find those people that like you, their perception is that relationship. It's not even the images. Your brand is the relationship. So I always say, especially to my early entrepreneurs, start with the relationship, start with the people, because their opinions are your brand. Because people don't believe the facades anymore. What they believe is the testimonials, the true work that you've done, the things you've established. So that, I think, is the piece of branding that people miss. They think images and logos, and I go, that's not the thing you do first. The first thing you do is build the brand, which is your reputation, and then the perception will come. What's funny is the logos I have now, the first thing I built was called Influencer Crowd, and I didn't know, in my mind it sounded lofty and big, and it was an agency, and I was like, man, it's just me. It's just me out there talking to people. So I felt fake. And then when I finally said, you know what, screw all that, I threw out the thing that I spent months building and all the money building the website and the logo. I threw it out, and I said, if I want to be true to myself, I'm going to start with people. So I just started working with people, working one-on-one, and then I threw up myself in 10 minutes this very plain logo that just says Brandon Brands. It's my name because I am the business. And I rolled with it, and things started changing because my mentality changed. I'm like, I am the business. The rest of it doesn't matter, and I'll improve it as as things come in. I'll invest and change it. But I had to start from a place that was more true and more real. And I think everyone should take that kind of to heart.
Amen to that one. And one of the big examples how people are changing from the perfect Instagram picture to real is actually what's happening on Instagram right now. So completely sidetrack here for a second. More and more people are on Instagram just scrolling by the perfectly fine set up pictures, and they are going for the real images. There is literally a movement on Instagram happening now where their focus is bad pictures, but real. So just on a side rant, it's one of those days today. So Brandon, how can branding, and we already touched a little bit on this, how can branding actually save us time and money? And in result to that, why should people pay attention to that? Because we all want to save time and money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and I think it starts with kind of the idea of why is branding important, right? I think the first thing to realize that customers are on autopilot. They're out there. They already have the things that they know they like, that they want to do. You go to the store, you don't even think about it anymore. You just buy the things that you've always bought that maybe you've been buying since childhood. It's different when you have to buy something brand new that you've never bought, like you have to hire an accountant, or you have to, you have your first time father and you have to buy baby products and you've never figured it out. I spent 6 hours at a baby store, like figuring it out. I get it. Besides that, customers basically are on autopilot. They don't pay attention. They want to do what's easy and fast. So if you're not establishing your brand, you're going to miss that opportunity to be that first or second company that person thinks about when they're in the market for you. And if you miss that chance, you're missing customers. So, I think the first thing is the idea of like, why do you need it? Well, because if people don't know you exist, they're not going to find you. They're not going to consider you, and they're not going to do the work to get to you and see if you're better than the competition. So you have to have that little bit of awareness. And also, people start to realize that most things are pretty much equal. So they start to choose on price. So you have to find a reason to stand out and not be chosen on price. I mean, since the day that manufacturing became streamlined and everything could basically be mass produced, people realize that it doesn't have to be artisan anymore, that like most things are going to be good enough. So you have to find a different way to build a business that says, this is why I am the thing for you specifically. So that's a little bit why it's important. And then loyalty. I think most of the time you want people to come back. And if you do want them to come back, the first thing that you have to kind of figure out is what's important to them. And it's establish some kind of meaningful connection. One of the funny things is a lot of people think, like, I have to combat branding. Is branding important? Because one of the stats out there is something like, I'll get the numbers wrong, so don't hold me to it, but something like if 83% of brands disappeared tomorrow, customers wouldn't care. Like they'd be fine. And most of us are going to end up in that 87% or 83% or whatever the number is. And that small piece at the top that they actually care would disappear. You have to figure out like how do you get into that group? And when looking at what customers care about, what keeps them loyal, and you look at all the different factors, really only one mattered. And I got this from my friend Mark Schaefer, who had done the research and figured it out, who wrote the book Marketing Rebellion. He basically said in his book, which you guys should get, it's customer loyalty. Customer loyalty is driven by meaning, by shared meaning. If you and the customer can come up with a connection point, a shared meaningful experience, they will be loyal. If you can't establish that, they have no reason to come back. And even if they bought you the first time, they might price check the second time, or someone else comes up with an offer, that one-time offer, they might just switch. So to not be I have a customer that switches, you have to find a way to establish a meaningful connection. That's the first part of my rant.
Which comes back to relationship. It's really, why do I go to Etsy to buy something? Because I have a relationship with certain people. If it's every day, I'm just looking at the price. So for us to get out of that every day, it's the relationship. It's the common thread. You have a similar past history. There is some kind of a personal connection that makes people come back to you rather than going down the road and buying it cheap at Walmart.
No, exactly. Well, I think to speak in terms of like the entrepreneurs like will really grasp, I think what do you think about when you're like, is my business working? It's, your unit volume. It's like, how much of what I'm selling am I selling, right? So that's going to be higher when more people know about you. Like the simple thing is, the more people can find out about you and hear about you, the more the unit volume is going to go up, the higher it is. Because if you're working from a small base of customers, there's only so much you can extract. And every time you add a customer or you add a group of sales, everything else is more efficient because most of your costs are fixed. So the more volume you can bring in, the better, right? So that's one, is a higher customer base, which means higher unit volume. The second is your marketing costs. They're going to be lower the better you can figure out who your customer is that's right for you. And that's positioning. So when your brand position is saying, it's not everybody, it's for these people. Like I know, Yvi, you would say, your brand's not for everybody, it's for the right people. When you can hone in on those right people, suddenly your marketing costs go down because you're not wasting it on people that don't care and won't take action. So.
And for people that are fresh to branding, that are just starting out, you might have heard about Facebook targeting. That's kind of an easy way, for me at least, to explain what it means to drill down on it. If you know exactly who that person is you want to talk to, you can check those boxes off. Female, 35 to 45, loves living in San Diego, eating Italian food. The more and more you can drill down on those personality types, on those favorites, on those what they are looking for, the easier it is to reach them, because you are suddenly not talking to 10,000 people. You were able to drill that down to a 500 collection of people, because we're not going for quantity, we're going for quality. Because those 500, once you drill down on those personal preferences and how they talk, and that they're fine with cursing, because I curse, you drill those down, you already know, you checked off a whole bunch of their marks that they're going to go through when they start talking to you.
Exactly.
So there is ad spends down because you can talk to a smaller. Right. And also your client onboarding is easier. You don't have to go through of, are you okay with me cursing when I'm on a coaching call with you? Nope, that just went an hour. We didn't need to go on the call because I'm going to curse. I'm passionate about your stuff. I'm going to say fuck.
Right, no, exactly. Well, and think about this. I mean, how many of our businesses are driven by repeats? You know what I mean? It's you find the right people, and then the people that you are serving that enjoy the experience, there's going to be a group of them that are the frequent shoppers, the people that are more loyal, the people that are more engaged, and those, tapping into those people and building a more meaningful relationship. It doesn't have to be with everybody. I mean, even if you could start with one person a day, depending on the scale of your business, or one little area where you put something in place that helps kind of reward or drive and exceed expectations of those customers that you know are super loyal and you want to turn them from being loyal to being advocates. You have to give them a reason to feel special. Yeah. And I think what's funny is we have these, I've worked with a lot of big businesses, and the hardest thing is you have these rules that you have to set up in the corporation for it to work and scale, right?
Yeah.
So once you've scaled, it's hard to keep things in balance. And I think what we have to do is empower the people that are customer facing, if that's us or if that's someone else, to say this is our benchmark, this is our established protocol, but you have to have ownership and flexibility to serve customers better. Basically, it's like, imagine you're in line for something and you're out of money, or the other day I was at like a movie theater in a parking lot, and like we didn't have the $2. It was supposed to be validated, but we missed whatever it was, and it was like she could have just let us out of the parking lot, and said, this isn't the rule, but next time, but just have a great day. I know you're in a rush to get back to your kids, whatever it is. And suddenly I would have been an advocate for the business. I would have gone on social media and told everyone just what a great experience. They would have had a story about how they serve customers different. And instead, it was an easy thing to do. It cost me $2. I had to go back out of the stall, park, walk across the street to the theater, pull out of the ATM money to pay $2. It was like, these are the kind of things that you can empower your employees to say, no, we do have rules, and your job is to let people know this is an exception, this isn't normal, but happy to help you out and take care of them. And if you start to see a pattern, obviously you can be like, no, I'm not, every day this guy takes advantage of it, I'm not doing it anymore. Fine. You have to empower your employees to encourage repeat business by establishing value and a higher experience.
That's where that's one of the things I love doing with my clients, really just giving the team a framework to work with, but then letting them roam free. One book I read that really drills down on this, what they call Queen Bee role, is Clockwork. They're really focusing on, okay, what is that one goal, especially when you work with a team, when you work in corporations, what is that one goal, that one thing that we want to deliver to our clients? Making them happy, easy education, whatever that one thing is, and you need to do whatever you can to reach that specific Queen Bee role. So, for example, in your case of telling them, okay, yes, we want to make money, we need to pay our bills, there's no question about it, but we want our customer to be happy, which gives the team member enough leeway to say, okay, yeah, you still have the popcorn. I know you were at the theater, so you should have gotten that validated. But you know what? Go have a great evening with your kids. Just don't do it again. Right. Have a little fun with it. Give your team the leeway of being able to move. And that's one thing where I really have a trouble with old style corporations, because it's so boxed in. It's like, give your team a little room. But that's just today is ranting day, apparently. Brandon, talking about my audience is a lot of solopreneurs, small team entrepreneurs that are in that growth phase. They have a couple of years under their belt. They are starting to understand who they are, how they want to serve, who they want to serve. But how can they really start building their brand? What would you tell them to help them really wrap their head around it and becoming their own brand?
Yeah, well, I think one of the first things is a little bit about knowing yourself. We talked about like you're figuring out who they serve. And that's one of the early things is, the first few people that give you a shot, you do need to like work with them closely and understand what works and what doesn't. Build those referrals and testimonials and all that stuff. You have to understand who those customers are. And what's great is when you're working more closely and you are smaller, you can get feedback directly and you can ask them what's going on and ask them what their other challenges are, what their needs are. You can build new products on the fly or adjust the services you have in the middle of it. Because part of this whole thing is your brand is also these products you are coming to market with, and they need to work well, and they need to serve the customers well. So think about this. When you have, I'm sure everyone understands like profits, right? You have one customer and that customer spent X with you. But if you work with them and you listen and you understand what the other things are that might be challenging them, either A, you could have refined your product and made it better, but B, you could have come up with add-ons and other things that you could add to their basket, especially if they're loyal and they're coming back. Now you want to increase their basket size or the amount of services or products that they're buying from you. And the only way you're going to do that is by understanding from them, what else do you need that I could be giving you? What are the other things that I could help you with? I do this myself. I'll give it an example. I mean, I'm still up and coming. I'm building my group and the people that I work with. And in working with them, what I said is, I don't know exactly what you want. So I set up a big miss challenge. It's in my, the group that I run. And I said, entrepreneurs, let's sit down for 30 minutes. I'll schedule a call. And in those 30 minutes, I'll identify, or I'll try my best to come up with, what's that thing sitting right under your nose that you should be doing, but you've missed it. You haven't taken the step. You have some excuse or whatever it is. What's the thing you could be doing right now that if you just did this one thing that's been right in front of you the whole time, it would change your business? And this, most of it's within the marketing branding space that I focus on, but sometimes we just end up talking about their business and it's something else. But those kinds of things, I wouldn't know what to do until I had these conversations. And sometimes it's like, man, you know what? Really, it's your email. You're a word of mouth business, your email list is neglected. You have a huge list, you're not using it well. And you're talking to people with spam and newsletters instead of talking to them one-on-one as humans. Let me coach you on how to do that. Let me show you what it means to talk to someone like a human and establish a better relationship with your customers and know who they are. So if you can do those kinds of things, I think suddenly you're resonating, especially if you're a smaller business. You've got to keep on refining your craft, and that's building your brand and the kind of work that you do.
And I think the flip coin of this and asking these questions and having these conversations is also, again, coming back around to perception. Especially with me, it's for me, so many tools and so many workflows and stuff, it's just there. I'm like, how can you not see that? It just makes sense to me because I'm living it. Having these conversations, I suddenly realized this is just my perception of easy, which the word you should never use. It's never easy just because you know how to do it. Just because I think it's easy doesn't mean other people think it's easy or even know it's possible. So having those conversations, you get the feedback of, oh, that's possible? And there you have a new YouTube video. It's that piece too for us to realize, just because we know how it's done or what needs to be done doesn't mean everybody else knows.
Right. Well, and what's funny is if I had to break it down to the core thing that you're trying to help people with, by saving time and saving money, marketing's kind of a funny thing in that, because the first thing it feels like is it costs you time and it costs you money. So it's a funny thing to try to figure out, right? And I appreciate you giving me that challenge to try to explain how that works. But the first thing I tried to focus on the time part first, and I was like, how does this save time, even though it is an investment of time? And the first thing I thought was, you have to give your customers everything that they need to say yes. And that is a time investment, but it's a one-time investment at first. You have to build the things that help them find you and that convinces them to give you a shot, that puts you on their shopping list, so they'll come in to say yes. And if you do that work up front, you don't have to do it anymore. The brand is working for you instead of you having to work every time twice as hard, twice as long, twice as many calls to get them to just trust you or to know you, or to, you're out there on the streets waving, please come into my store, whatever the thing is, the sign twirlers. Building that brand helps you save the time you're putting into chasing down customers one at a time. Eventually they should be coming to you because they've heard about you already. Your brand preceded you, your reputation preceded you.
Do it once and repeat it. So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And again, even that time saving, yes, we need to build it up front. Yes, we need to put time into it. Yes, you need to put it on your schedule and really say you are taking a couple hours to do this. It comes back around because you initially spent that time, and then you don't have to spend that time again. You have your voicing right, you have your messaging right, you have those specific emails for outreach right, but you also landed a client, which means that is a warm lead. They already know you, they have worked with you. Oh, you got a problem with that too? Let me help you. It's
when you put time in and you think about it, like I think people know it, it's a lot of work. And then the other part of it, so like the save money piece, I was like, okay, if it's costing you money, how does it save you money? And I thought about two things for this. One is that the funny conversation is like this, an old school statement was that, yeah, I know that half of my marketing is working. I just don't know which half. Like this is like an old joke, in advertising. And the funny thing is, marketing can save you money if you can eliminate the waste, which is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The more you can cut down on the things you're spending on that are wasting time, the more efficient it starts to be. But also it starts to add up and be accumulative. Every time you do something that helps the customer get closer, that reminds them that you're here. Like you might have gotten the customer, but they might have forgot to come in this month to buy that thing again, or to check in with you. The more you can remind them that this is for them, the more often they're going to come in. So using those practices can save money because you're not spending all that money prospecting, and you spend less time or less money wasted on the wrong people if you do it right. But the longer you take the commitment you make to marketing, the longer you spend marketing, over time, it becomes more and more efficient because you are figuring things out that work and don't work. So that's where the money saving starts. And then I just flipped it on its head. I was like, you know what? You've given me really quite hard questions to answer, Yvi. So what I like to do is flip it. I say, it's not about how do I save you guys time and money. I hope I've answered some of that, but really it's how do I make you money and give you your time back? Because at the end of the day, marketing is the one thing you can do in your business where when you invest into it, it gives back an output that is revenue. It's the only thing like that you can do in your business, that you pitch $1 in and it spits $3 out like an ATM. Mm-hmm. And people I don't think understand that. And what's funny is an industry standard for ROI, which means return on investment in advertising, is something like 3 to 1. So if you're doing it right and just meeting the benchmark, after you've got past the growing pains your first couple months, you should be aiming for this 3 to 1, which is every dollar you spend on marketing, you're getting $3 back in revenue. That is the goal. And if you can get there, and the best companies do it, there is a waste, there is diminishing return, there is doing too much that you'll stop reaching customers. But I'm guessing most of us haven't peaked. Mm-hmm. We haven't reached everyone that could possibly buy our service. We haven't done everything to get our full capacity. If you're at full capacity and you can't handle more customers, then you don't need it. You're done. Like, take a break, figure out your systems, get more efficient, raise your prices, do whatever you have to do until you can handle more customers. But once you need more customers, marketing is the way to go to get that ROI going. And I know I mix up marketing and branding, but in me, they're like kissing cousins. It's,
one can't come without the other. And one thing that I personally, when I work with clients, really pay attention to is also the mindset that comes with knowing your brand. Again, we talked about this earlier. It's a growing pain. It's an evolving. It's us growing, and the brand grows with it. But what also helps me, and it's like everybody always tells you that until you get to the point where you are your brand, you're like, yeah, whatever. What I just realized with my own, again, I always heard it, when your brand is on point, everything is just going to fall into place and you're going to know exactly. And what people mean by that when they talk about that is you are able to suddenly make split decisions. A opportunity comes down the road and is like, here, you could speak and I pay you $1,000 for it. Yeah, but that's not my target audience. That's not what I want to talk about. That's not who I am. I don't get to curse. So within 5 seconds, you can make the decision, no, that's not right for me because it doesn't fit in my brand. But also the other way around, suddenly you see opportunities pop up left and right because you know exactly what your brand is, what your goal is, and where you are going with this, and if those people fit you or don't fit you. So suddenly it's like buying a red car and suddenly you see red cars everywhere. That is the great point of when you reach that brand positioning of a real brand. But that's all here.
No, I agree. Well, and I would say the feelings that people have about branding they're valid. In other words, if you're feeling like this is a big task, like it's daunting, it seems like a huge thing to take on. I get that all the time. They're not wrong, but I think it's when you think about things as the final destination, sometimes it's really intimidating. But it's what's funny is you can break these up into much smaller, tackleable pieces, and it's that's what I do a lot of time when I'm working with someone for the first time. Is we start to understand their priorities. Like when I'm brandonbrands.com is the website, and from there, like when I'm there, I like come into the community, like just get to know, like listen to what we're doing, so you start to understand the mindset a little bit. And then when I'm talking to them, I set up a one-on-one call. Usually, I start to figure out like, okay, well, let's take this. What can you handle this? Well, first you have a budget. If you don't, like there are things let's talk about you can do for free because there's plenty of that. But there are little things along the way that's, you can pick it one thing at a time. Maybe your priority should just be your website because you've been in business for 3 years and it's not helping you actually drive business. Or maybe for you, like your website's okay, but really you just need more people to know about you and you need to just get some Facebook ads out there so that people can find you. It might be like one little thing that even though you need the whole house rebuilt, you might need to start with just the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think what I like to do is isolate those things and say, okay, you might have a budget for the year, cool, but let's chunk it out to like little projects. What's the first project for May that we need to tackle? I'm building my brand right now. My project for May is launching this podcast, like relaunching it. I did it like just like my brand. I started just to get it moving. And then, in the meantime, I was practicing. I paid for the coaching to make sure I could do it professionally. I paid for the editing and the intros and all that to make it like a higher production value and got the right guests. And on May 5th, it relaunches and I'll have a product that's much better than I started with. But it's because I took on that project one at a time. If I had to do that and the website and build a product bundle and manage a community, it's very daunting. But starting with one thing that I knew I could focus on, I could check that off my list. And then next month, I'll rebuild the website a little bit. And then next month, I'll get my email, game figured out that's better. I think you'll have to take it on one thing at a time. But what's most important right in front of you right now?
And you just summed up the course we are starting on Friday with my Kick-Ass Goal Challenge. So thanks for that plug.
You're welcome.
No, I always used to say it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And it really just comes down on how you approach a problem. And that's a big piece of what it is. Cut it down into small pieces. So we are pretty much on our 45-minute mark. And damn, my head is spinning with that much information. Even I got a lot of new stuff out of here. So, Brennan, tell the audience, where can they find you? How can they online stalk you?
I try to be everywhere, but the best place is brandonbrands.com. Again, it's not the prettiest website. It's under, I'm building it like you guys are. But that's where you can find me. I'm active on social channels, but that's where you can get a hold of me the best. But I'd love for you guys to check out the podcast. It's called Brands on Brands on Brands, relaunching May 5th. So wait for it till then. But that's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
And you might just hear a crazy German somewhere on that podcast. I'm just saying. Not that I heard anything about that. There might be a crazy German on at some point.
Well, you might. We'll definitely mark that one explicit. We'll just let it all loose on that one.
I try to behave myself when I go on other people's shows, but that's just my brand. I get passionate about things. And when I get passionate about things, sooner or later, some kind of a curse word is gonna drop. It just happens.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thanks so much for being here. You guys go check out his website. Go join the Facebook group. I'm gonna make sure I plug in all the links and everything so you can easily find him. You don't have to go all Google crazy. I know he has a couple freebies for you. Go join the group, pick his brain. As you've seen with me, if you followed the last couple of years, brand really makes a difference, but don't beat yourself up if you're not there yet. You're not helping anybody if you're just beating yourself up. We are all just here for the ride. Just roll with it. And just tell people, you know what? I'm working on it. We're going to get there. We are all in this together. And on the schedule side of things, these lives are going to be happening here on the Ask Yvi Facebook group every first and third German third, American third. Thursday of the month, yes, Germans and Americans count differently. That's a whole nother story. I would love to see you here. A lot of how-tos and other time-saving tips happening over on YouTube, and behind the scenes happening on Instagram. Yes, I'm pretty much anywhere now. But again, thanks for being here, and thanks for taking on this challenge with me, and we need to have a coffee chat soon again.
Oh, anytime. It was such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and I hope your community found value in it. I'm
pretty sure they did. They're going to have to rewatch 3 times to slowly digest all of that bunch of information you gave us. But that's what we got replay for.
Alrighty.
Thanks, everybody, and see you soon.
Thank you.